Did the San Francisco 49ers get better in the 2023 offseason? We will look position by position at the offensive side of the ball. Where the 49ers get better, where do they potentially get worse? Coming up on today's Locked On 49ers.
You are Locked On 49ers, your daily San Francisco 49ers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On 49ers. Brian Peacock and Eric Crocker at BD Peacock at Eric_Crocker. Thanks everybody for making us your first listen right here on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Appreciate all of the everydayers out there. If you want to be an everydayer yourself, make sure you are subscribed up on YouTube and everywhere you get your podcast. Today's episode of Locked On 49ers is brought to you by Birddogs. Go to birddogs.com/LockedOnNFL and they'll throw in a free custom Birddogs Yeti style tumbler with every order of Birddogs. All right, Croc, offense, offseason, draft, free agency. Did the 49ers get better? And they did bring in a big name at quarterback. It starts there. It always starts at quarterback. Sam Darnold added to the quarterback room. He was signed in free agency from the Carolina Panthers. Jimmy Garoppolo on the way out. He signs a 3-year, $72.75 million contract with the Las Vegas Raiders, I think, unless, this new mystery foot injury changes things with the Raiders, and Garoppolo might not see all of that. There are some stipulations there with that contract, with his delayed press conference and everything. But Jimmy Garoppolo no longer a San Francisco 49er. The two youngsters, Trey Lance, Brock Purdy, still in-house, and the veteran brought in to replace Jimmy Garoppolo on the roster is Sam Darnold. Brandon Allen, part of the group as well, QB4, QB3 to start training camp until Brock Purdy is healthy. Did the 49ers, Croc, get better this offseason at quarterback?
No. And a big part of that to me is Brock Purdy not having a true offseason. Right, like if you were telling me this whole time that Brock Purdy, on top of what he did last year, really without an offseason, but heading into this year, man, he's able to throw, he's working on things, and he's really, in there with Kyle, and he's taking that next step, then I'd be, like, yeah, this team definitely got better at the quarterback position. But right now, it's almost kind of like potentially a minus, because you assume, and everybody is assuming, that the elbow will recover just fine. Week 1, you won't even notice a difference. He might even be stronger with the way that they kind of put the brace in there on the elbow, and everything is perfectly fine. But there's a chance that maybe it does look a little weird. Maybe he has this slow start because of it. The biggest hurdle that a lot of athletes and football players deal with when it comes to injuries is the mental aspect of it. So physically, maybe he is fine. Mentally, where is he at there? We saw that with Jimmy Garoppolo when he was returning from his ACL originally. So, hey, he's cleared to play. He's good. But I remember watching him in that Broncos preseason game where he didn't want the leg to get touched, and he kind of was lifting his leg to try to keep it out of harm's way. So I would say right now it would be hard to say that they got better at the quarterback position. But obviously, I think we are excited to see how Brock Purdy recovers. And if he is 100%, then I don't think there'll be much of an issue.
Right. And then the last year's break glass in case of emergency quarterback was Jimmy Garoppolo himself. And we know what level Jimmy can play in the NFL. And we know his faults. We know his strengths, though. And the 49ers can win a lot of games there. We know that Sam Darnold's a pretty talented guy, but we don't know if the floor is nearly as high, and it's probably not as high as what it was with Jimmy Garoppolo. Maybe there's more ceiling there. Maybe the 49ers will be able to get that out of Sam Darnold, but it's hard to project that. I do think depth is better coming into this year because they have a QB4. I don't know if they'll be able to hang on to him. After camp, if Brock Purdy comes back, is Brandon Allen just going to hang out on the practice squad in case the 49ers have a weird historic injury run again and need to go down to their 4th quarterback? So that's a tough one. Will he even stick around? But, right now it looks like depth is better just because they have 4 guys that, could play in a football game that they didn't have last year. Would have been nice to have that one extra guy last year in the playoffs. But The Brock Purdy's a tough one. I do think Trey Lance is going to be better. Trey Lance is going to be another year better. He's going to be a healthy version of himself, and I think his week one ability will be better than his week one ability last year. And he was the starter last year to start the season, right? So that is somewhat better. Brock Purdy is the tough one, and you pretty much said it there. How can you project Brock Purdy to be better than he was? And something we said on the podcast earlier on this week when talking about Brock Purdy and coming off that injury and just how it was the episode comparing Jimmy Garoppolo and Brock Purdy, and how good he was with some of the 80% intermediate completion percentage. It's just like it's going to regress to the mean a little bit in some ways. Now, Brock Purdy could even play better, even without a full offseason, just to be, just another year older and been around the team and been around the offense. He could play better, and it won't show up as well in the statistics. It won't even look as good as it did at the end of last year. And that's with him growing and becoming better. But he hasn't had the offseason to even help that growth along. So it's really hard to project what Brock Purdy will be and project him to be better than he was. And he played so good down the stretch. And Garoppolo, when he played, aside from that really weird, was it the Broncos game was his first game? That was bad. But then he started playing really well after that. So the quarterback's a tough one because you could see it going great. And maybe they have a young superstar quarterback in Brock Purdy. Maybe they end up still having a young superstar quarterback in Trey Lance. Maybe the best version of Sam Darnold is pretty good and even better than Jimmy Garoppolo. It's just hard to project what that is right now and say that they for sure got better at quarterback.
Right.
The unknown of Brock's elbow is still like, when's he going to be healthy? We still don't know that. And, is there going to be any setbacks? Is he going to have as strong of an arm? Could he have a little stronger arm? Might have, if he has just a little weaker arm, that might be enough to take him from a level where it's like, okay, cool. He can make throws to like, oh man, I'm not sure if that's going to be enough arm. So that's really, for the 49ers to be so convinced about Brock Purdy coming off this elbow injury is, and with all the weird stuff that's gone on with the 49ers, all the injuries with Jimmy Garoppolo in the past, it's one of the strangest situations I can remember.
It feels more like they are more convinced with the floor of Brock Purdy. I think if you look at it from that standpoint, it's like, well, he can only go up, obviously, unless the injury just kind of derails things. But
right.
Assuming that he's 100%, which everybody said, hey, he's right on track with everything. He's doing some things, actually throwing the football right now. He's going to be just fine. And the floor is what you saw last year, a guy that didn't have an offseason and was capable of, hey, I can contribute and make plays on a team that's on an 8-game winning streak or whatever it was, right? So maybe that's what they're more optimistic about when it comes to the approach of him, where, hey, man, like at the base level, we'll probably get what we got to end the season.
If we can't say that they got better at quarterback, can you say they got worse?
I could say they got worse because if you are hitching your wagon to Brock Purdy and there is any kind of regression, and again, not even from a physical standpoint, but from a mental standpoint, where maybe he's just not as comfortable doing certain things or reacting a certain way. And again, that's typically the issue when guys are coming back from injuries. It's not even it's not the physical part of it. It's the mental hurdles of, just certain throws or certain ways that you would, throw the ball or drop your, elbow down and throw it sidearm. And then now it's like, is that going to cause me any type of pain? And anyone that's listening to this podcast right now who has dealt with any type of significant injury that sidelined you for a little bit, that there's kind of this time period of uncertainty with how it's going to hold up with you doing certain things. And unfortunately for him, he'll throw, but once it's live action and it's TJ Watt on the other side, do you err on the side of caution when it comes to that? And we'll find that out. But again, that's just a big question mark.
Yeah. How long will it take him to trust it? That is a big question mark.
When did Jimmy G, I think what they say, week 7, week 8 in 2019, he started like really trusting the knee again.
After the ACL? Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, again, now, if by that time, if you're on a 7-game win streak like the 49ers were during 2019, then it won't be an issue. And it definitely was an upgrade. But all we're saying right now is we can't say that without any uncertainty.
Yeah, it's hard to say the 49ers got better at quarterback, although you can absolutely write the story that they did get better and see how that could possibly happen as well. Full season of Brock, like he played last year, is better quarterback play. And they did get better in that case, but can't say that they did and can't project that right now. Next, 49ers lost as starting offensive lineman. Did they get better up front? What about the pass catchers, tight ends? A couple of newly drafted tight ends as well on the offensive side of the ball next. Today's episode of Locked On 49ers is brought to you by Birddogs. Birddogs make you look good, but you know what? They make you feel good as well. The stretch khaki shorts designed to fit slimmer through the thigh and leg, giving you a truly sculpted look. And that's what I love about Birddogs is they're so versatile and they look great. You put them on, you're like, great. I'm going to fit in whatever mode I'm in right now. It's summertime, right? You're having a barbecue outside. You're going to look good in your Bird Dog pants. Maybe you want to do a little golf outing. You're going to look great in your Bird Dog pants, but that stretch khaki is going to help you move around and feel great while you're doing it. They fit way better than regular shorts that are made stiff, restricting cotton. Bird Dogs fixed all that issue by inventing cloud knit fabric that looks just like khaki but stretches. So you get a way slimmer fit without having to sacrifice that movement. And they use an anti-stink sweat wicking fabric that keeps you cool and dry all day long, all summer long in your Bird Dogs, whether you got the Bird Dog pants or the Bird Dog shorts. You get them with a liner too, in case you got that pool party, jump on in the pool in your Bird Dogs as well, which I have done before. All you got to do is go to birddogs.com/LockedOnNFL for a free Yeti style tumbler with your order. That's birddogs.com/LockedOnNFL for a free Yeti style tumbler. You won't want to take your Bird Dogs off. We promise you. The 49ers made their big addition at running back mid-season last year, Croc. So the question becomes, is a full year of Christian McCaffrey an improvement on just a half season of Christian McCaffrey for the 49ers running backs? And I think the answer has to be yes there. They didn't lose anybody important at the running back spot in the offseason. They did, however, add a couple of undrafted free agents to the mix along with Christian McCaffrey. So we got Christian McCaffrey, a true running back one, best maybe running back in the NFL, among them at least. Elijah Mitchell, your number two. Jordan Mason now developed after his undrafted rookie season last year. Good reports of him in the spring. You got Ty Davis-Price. We'll see what happens of last year's third-round draft pick, probably running back 4 at the highest coming into camp as long as Elijah Mitchell is healthy. Then you got Ronald Awatt and Kalen LeBourne, and we're going to do some Scouting Report podcasts on undrafted running backs, but you should never dismiss undrafted running backs, Croc, especially on this San Francisco 49ers roster with Kyle Shanahan and the group of coaches that they have that do such a good job there. So, Croc, I ask you now about running backs. Did the 49ers get better at running back?
Definitely. You look at Christian McCaffrey and just now you get a full season with him. He did a terrific job of studying nonstop. I think he would be a lot more comfortable in the offense and then finding the guys behind him, right? I think anytime Elijah Mitchell is healthy, which he's not right now, you feel more comfortable about that. But now, are you playing that game between Ty Davis-Price? You know, he's a guy that we spent some draft capital on, or you say, you know what, Jordan Mason, you're just the guy. And if you have that figured out, you know, who's your first, second, and third string running backs, I think you feel more comfortable about that. And you don't have to, you know, make a splash trade midseason.
Then you get a couple guys on the practice squad, right? See if you have something. See if Ronald Awatt or Kalen LeBourne can stick.
I'd say one of those guys is going to be active. One of them will be on the 53-man roster.
Okay, so that either means Elijah Mitchell's on the pup or one of the other running backs is hurt. Knock on wood. You hope that doesn't happen, but it's a very real chance with running backs in the NFL. Or you think TDP goes the way of Trey Sermon last year and he doesn't make the 53.
Well, not trying to, you know, be a hot take guy because that's not really what we do. But I love Elijah Mitchell. I think he runs extremely well. But is there a scenario where he's just not healthy enough? And, I mean, he's a 6th-round pick. You let him go. It's not like you're losing any, you know, a lot that you invested. Again, his ability is like RB1 type play. But, gosh, you're just hurt too much. We can't count on you to play and string together 3 games in a row, you know, without thinking something's going to fall off of you. You know what? we're going to keep one of these other guys that we've been really excited about, runs well, Ty Davis Price. Maybe he takes that next step and they let go of Elijah Mitchell. I don't foresee that happening, but you talk about a potential guy on his way out. What if it's a guy that they just can't trust to be on the field at all?
Or they, are able to trade someone like Elijah Mitchell, get a day 3 pick back for him, so they don't have to cut another player.
I think he runs so well.
He's averaging 6 yards a carry for the 49ers. Like he was a bit monster yards per carry wise both seasons. Dude just can't stay healthy.
Right. And when we say that, I mean he's hurt right now, which maybe it's not serious because sometimes in the offseason they just hold guys out of practice and hey man, just go ahead, rehab stuff up. But either way, with how the season went, with him getting hurt first game of the season, then he came back, then he got hurt again, and it's just always banged up for a guy that I'm like, man, I think he needs to be on the field somehow. Just run, keep both him and McCaffrey on the field. And it's like, you can't trust it. I can't say with any certainty right now. I've seen the over under on his yardage for the season at like 520 yards. And in my head, like, oh, that's a no-brainer. Smash the over. And it's like, actually, you do got to kind of think about it because like, is he going to be healthy? Is he going to play?
Yeah. And when he's playing, he's going to be a clear number 2 behind Christian McCaffrey as long as he's healthy.
Yeah, but they give him carries though. When they were both on the field at the same time, I mean, there were times where it's like, maybe they're just blocking better, but it looks like he's running better than Christian McCaffrey.
I mean, he did have a better yards per carry. Like he's a legitimate running back, and in that style too, that one cut, like he sees it, he gets downhill and he gets downhill fast. But he does run a little high, and he does take a lot of contact with his running style. Does Elijah Mitchell? By the way, fullback included in this, Kyle Juszczyk is still Kyle Juszczyk, so you're good there. Jack Coletto, he's an interesting one. I want to see what he looks like in camp and see if he's doing a full-time fullback role, if he's playing all kinds of different positions. A lot of fun rookies to watch in training camp, including the young tight ends. Croc. George Kittle is obviously still a dude, and we've talked about how he just needs to be targeted more and more in this offense, and he should be getting 12 targets a game for the 49ers. I think George Kittle will tell you that as well. As long as he is healthy and he's been banged up every single year, 49ers are going to be good there. But I think you got to say that the tight end group got better this offseason because they just added more competition. And you hope that they don't have to lean too heavily on these other tight ends. And you can never, tight end is a position that does take a little time in the NFL to develop because you got so many things going on and you have to be really smart and you have to know the run game. You have to know your assignments. You're moved around to all these different positions. You have to know the routes. You have to know the passing game as well as the running game. So there's a lot to learn for an NFL tight end. But Cameron Latu, the 3rd-round tight end out of Alabama, and Braden Willis from Oklahoma, the 7th-rounder, are now battling with Ross Dwelley and Charlie Warner. Troy Fumagalli brought back as well as a free agent. So it's a really deep group. Behind Kittle, I have no idea what the order is going to be or who's going to make the team, but competition makes everybody better. So they at least got a little better with the competition from the rookies.
I think, everyone should be more excited about the competition of guys. Because last year, you talk about tight end group and it's like Charlie Warner, Ross Dwelley, Tyler Kroft. Like, man, I don't care. But I think they just got better from a competitive standpoint between these guys and the rookie out of Oklahoma. Like, you just have to be excited about what they potentially can bring to the table. So definitely you got better because competition should make this thing very interesting. I mean, will Ross Dwelley make the team? I think that's a huge question.
And if he makes the team, that means he got pushed and is playing that well that he fended off both rookies and Charlie Warner still be that number 2 tight end.
Right.
Next, the offensive line. The 49ers lost a big money free agent in Mike McGlinchey at right tackle. Does that make the 49ers worse? Or do the 49ers can they be even better on the offensive line than they were last year? Next. Thanks, everybody, for making Locked On 49ers your first listen every day right here on the Locked On Podcast Network. Shout out to the everydayers. If you want to become an everydayer, make sure you're subscribed up on YouTube and everywhere you get your podcasts. And make sure you check out the Peacock and Williamson NFL show right here on the Locked On Podcast Network. Myself and former NFL scout breaking down the entire league daily. So Mike McGlinchey signed a big free agent contract with the Denver Broncos, 5 years, $87.5 million, $17.5 million per year. And I do not think the 49ers should have matched that by any stretch of the imagination. They had to let him walk for those dollar figures to the Denver Broncos. We'll see how it works out for Mike McGlinchey with the Denver Broncos there. But the 49ers like their guy in-house in Colton McKivitz. He's going to be the right tackle. There's no Daniel Brunskill either. He signed a free agent contract with the Tennessee Titans. So it is all Spencer Burford's job in year 2 at right guard. Jake Brendel coming back. He got a 4-year extension. Not big money. He's not locked into anything there, but they gave him a vote of confidence. Probably the first multi-year contract he's ever signed in the NFL, even though he's 30 years old. Jake Brendel coming back as the center. He's going to have some competition, I think, though, in camp, at least a little bit. Aaron Banks at left guard and Trent Williams being Trent Williams at left tackle. How do you like that starting group, Croc? Do you think the 49ers got worse or got better on the offensive line?
I want to say that they got better because I believe that guys like Aaron Banks and Spencer Burford will become more consistent and play better, right? And especially when you look at the right guard spot with Spencer Burford, I think we feel like, oh yeah, like, he's arrived. Play a lot, but it's hard to say they got better when you lose McGlinchey, who at the end of the day, when he's out there, he was dependable for the most part, right? Outside of a couple plays where he's getting tossed around like a rag doll. Outside of that, he was pretty dependable. And then at right guard, you at the very least knew you had Daniel Brunskill that can spell Spencer Burford, right? So if Burford is getting a little weird, all right, we're going to bring in Daniel Brunskill. And you saw those guys rotate throughout the year. So you kind of lost the rotation guy. Then you lost the consistency type guy. So to me, again, I want to be convinced that these other guys took the next step. We'll see. But guys that I know that you could kind of rely on to play well, you don't have them. So I would say that they maybe took half a step back and got a little bit worse, depending on how these young guys end up playing.
And obviously, Colton McKivitz is a huge part of that. And I do have some belief in Colton McKivitz. I know the 49ers do. I don't know if I have as much belief as the 49ers do in Colton McKivitz. But clearly he's got a better anchor than Mike McGlinchey. Now, he's not going to be as athletic. I don't think he'll be as good as a run blocker. But does his anchor and not getting tossed around sometimes by some power rushes, does that make him an overall better pass protector? And if it does, the 49ers are going to be fine there with the starting unit. But I do worry about depth. And Daniel Brunskill is so important because of the multiple positions he could play at a pretty high level. So now it's sink or swim time for Spencer Burford, who could, though, obviously take that next step in year 2 and be better than he was and Daniel Brunskill was as a long-term starter for the 49ers. So that's a possibility as well. So I'm not even actually worried about the starting unit as much. I'm a little bit more worried about the depth because what the 49ers had last year in Mike McGlinchey, they still had Colton McKivitz. So if McGlinchey gets hurt, Colton McKivitz walks in, they've got the same offensive line they have right now, right? But you don't have that luxury and that depth. If Trent Williams got hurt, you could plug Colton McKivitz in there at left tackle, which he's done good in some small samples. So a large sample of McKivitz, does he play as well as he did in some smaller samples recently? There were some rough outings he had as well for the 49ers. But the thing that really worries me is what if Trent Williams misses time, and he will miss time. Like Trent Williams doesn't play full seasons. He just doesn't. He's only done it twice in his whole career, and those were when there were 16 game seasons, let alone 17 game seasons at his older age now. So Matt Pryor was really the replacement for Mike McGlinchey. So the combination of McGlinchey and McKivitz is better than the combination of McKivitz and Pryor at offensive tackle. And that's what worries me about this unit is the depth. If Trent Williams misses time, I'm not even worried about the starting unit with Colton McKivitz really that much. I do like John Feliciano, the addition there. He's kind of the replacement for Brunskill. And so, I think he might compete a little bit. Like, I don't think people should be completely shocked if John Feliciano wins that center job over Jake Brendel. I don't think he will. I think he's going to be a super sub on the interior. And I can't wait to see what happens with some of the younger players like Jason Poe and see what Nick Sakel's all about this year. Jalen Moore still around. Joey Fisher, the undrafted rookie, El Manning. So they do have some competition there, but I think depth has me more worried that this offensive line got worse than the starting unit.
First, I want to say my apologies if I'm talking too loud. I'm trying to talk over the storm that's going on. I feel like I'm going to get hit by a tornado or something, and all of a sudden you see me flying away if you're watching on YouTube. But so if I told you that Trent Williams plays every game, you'd be much more confident about this offensive line?
Oh yeah, yeah. I would because I like the year 3 for Banks, the year 2 for Burford. I think there could be gains there, and in that regard, maybe it's even a better. If Trent is Trent, maybe it's a better offensive line than it was last year, especially if McKivitz proves to be maybe even a better pass protector, or at least a different pass protector, and you can count on him a little more in some of those downs where he doesn't get forklifted out of there. So there's kind of like the quarterback situation. You can't say that they got better on paper, but there's a path to them being a better offensive line than they were last year. So I think that's put it. But if I had to say they got better or worse, I would say they got worse on the offensive line.
I think that's kind of my angle and how I think about it as well. Where if you told me that Spencer Burford is just better and Aaron Banks just continues to play how he played last year, then I'm definitely much more confident with this unit. But right now, I'm looking specifically at that right side with Colton McKivitz and Spencer Burford, and I just don't know at all what I'm getting. But last year, almost like, let's say, Trey Lance and Jimmy G, right? Where it's like, don't know how Trey Lance is going to do, but hey, man, there's Jimmy G there, and you know what you're going to get out of him, and you know you're capable of playing for a long time, right? And that's how I feel at the right guard spot where, Spencer Burford, I don't know exactly what I'm going to get, but, man, when you had Daniel Brunskill, I knew exactly what I was going to get out of Daniel Brunskill. And now you take that away, and it's kind of it's a kind of a little bit more of an uneasy feeling.
Right. And look, the offensive line wasn't amazing last year. Trent Williams is awesome, but it's a pretty average group. I think when you look league wide from left guard to right tackle, and they have less of a safety net because now they don't have the McKivitz to back up the line because McKivitz is a starter. They don't have that safety net in Daniel Brunskill anymore on the interior. And I don't, it was nice that Aaron Banks proved to be a starting guard in the NFL. I don't know if we should project like that he's going to be, a Pro Bowler. Well, and same with Spencer Burford. I hope he's a nice starting player, but it's going to be hard to say that. Oh, he's going to be we got a Pro Bowl guard there now in year 2, as a 4th round pick last year out of where did he come from? UTEP, and he's a really good player. I like Spencer Burford, but UTSA, yeah, San Antonio. So Niners got worse on the offensive line, and last year they exceeded my expectations. So I'm just hoping that they can do it again. And Chris Forrester is just magical with his coaching ability, just like, like Chris Kocurek. And I think it's one of the things the 49ers have that people don't talk about enough. They talk about Shanahan dialing up, plays and, the star power of all these players. That assistant coaching staff has been rock solid for the 49ers for years, and they've gotten poached a lot too. So guys like Chris Forrester are so important to the 49ers.
Well, we've talked about Kyle Shanahan and his ability to identify coaches, and I think really just personalities in general and how they kind of fit and mold together. I think that's one of the best things or qualities that a CEO can have. I know technically Chad York's the CEO, but just Kyle Shanahan, he's running the show, and being able to bring people in there with different personalities, but figuring out how to make it all mesh and how it all fits together like a puzzle. And I think ultimately the results of that is a team that moves as one. And whether it's the philosophy really on both sides of the ball, because I think they play the same on both sides of the ball, tough, physical, aggressive. And I know everybody wants to play that style. If you listen to the Raiders coaches, they're saying the same thing. Dallas Cowboys coaches, they're probably saying the same thing. But the 49ers really walk that walk and talk that talk. And how they want to build this roster is exactly how they play really on both sides. So I think that's Kyle Shanahan who has really kind of made this whole thing or orchestrated this whole thing to really fit like a glove.
And you do have to remember, you want to be excited about a new team. And we've talked about how this could be this could be the best team the 49ers have had, especially on offense and really on defense too, with that defensive line, if it comes together. But all 32 teams think they got better in the offseason. And we know from history that all 32 teams didn't get better. That's not what happened. So I can't wait to see how this team does come together for the 49ers in training camp and into the 2023 season.
So I put out this tweet about the over under on 49ers yards, right? Mm-hmm. And Christian McCaffrey, his rushing yards is at 850. I'd assume that he gets that. We have George Kittle receiving yards at 700. Deebo Samuel, 825. We'll see. Brandon Ayuk, 775. I'm pretty bullish on that. But it was a fan just tweeted me about Elijah Mitchell's 575 yards. And he said, Mitchell as a backup behind CMC, he would need 8 to 10 games to hit that, but he always gets hurt. And that was kind of our conversation about him. So hopefully, hey, man, if he's healthy, go run out there right now and put big money on him to hit the over on his yardage.
And that's where you like, because McCaffrey, if he's healthy, he's going to blow that away. And like, same with Elijah Mitchell. You just don't know with the attrition at running back if those guys are going to stay healthy. The one I like the least is probably the Deebo one, just because of what the usage is going to be. But, you know, if Deebo's 2021 Deebo again, he's going to blow that away too. But then if he does, then can Kittle and Ayuk both do it too, you know, because those all seem easily attainable, but they can't all do it at the same time. I guess they could, but it's unlikely.
Did we skip over the receivers?
We did skip over the receivers.
You said Deebo's name, and I'm thinking, like, wait a minute. We didn't talk about Deebo.
We did not talk about receivers. You're absolutely right. All right, we're going to have to save receivers to next time then, Croc. We got the defensive side of the ball as well. We will be back next time. Did the 49ers get better at wide receiver? Did the 49ers get better on the defensive side of the ball, position by position, right here, Locked On 49ers?
Subscribe to this video.